Well, hello everyone. I am Matt Williamson at Williamson NFL. Please go check out my YouTube page, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff. Follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you like. As mentioned, this will be my last podcast unless something huge happens for the week, as well as early in the next week. I'll be gone Tuesday to Tuesday, basically. But if something pops, I will do everything possible to record something and get it in the system ASAP from vacation, from the beach. And along those lines, I figured that was a good way to segue to today's show. Brandon Aiyuk is once again making noise. He put out a TikTok video that was somehow in a conversation or directed towards Jalen Daniels, the second pick in the draft from the Commanders, LSU quarterback, Heisman winner, that basically saying the Niners don't want me. I'm not going to be back, basically. And of course, Steeler Nation is abuzz. They're a flutter. Now, Aiyuk and Daniels, if you don't know this, way back when, well, a couple years ago, played together at Arizona State. And one caught passes from the other, and I guess they've remained very good friends. So there's tons of speculation all of a sudden that he is heading to the Commanders. We'll see. But by the sounds of his TikTok, which absolutely could just be a contract negotiation ploy, tactic, whatever, as all these receivers are getting signed left and right, there's much speculation that he is on the move, and it's out of his mouth. Okay, how does that affect the Steelers? Well, if that's true, Debo won't go anywhere, and I think Debo would be cheaper than Aiyuk. Daniel Jeremiah, also right before I hit record on this, said, if Ayuk's on the move, the Steelers should be the number one team after him. I don't disagree with any of that. My problem is I don't think the first round pick for next year can be on the table in any way, shape, or form. You don't know who your quarterback's going to be. You have a ton of cap space, but I would struggle to trade a first and then give Aiyuk $30 million, which is, he's going to want the St. Brown contract, which I think he's very deserving of. And he is a phenomenal player that would be a massive addition to the Steelers. And if they were to make such a trade, I think they are much closer to contention this year than holding on to the picks and whatnot. It would be really tough for me to part with a first. And it would be really tough for me to move Aiyuk if I'm the Niners without the Steelers first involved, even if it's Aiyuk in a fifth for the one or whatever. Yes. And they may not even say yes to that. So I'm interested. I don't know this for a fact, but I can pretty darn close to confirm that the Steelers and Niners have had wide receiver discussions since the end of the last season, free agency, and probably still keep in touch. I think that's crazy if you don't. I absolutely think the Steelers are exploring every avenue for another receiver and would bet, I wouldn't bet every dollar I own or, the mortgage, but I think something will get done, that they will add a name brand guy. I don't think it's going to be Aiyuk, though. To trade a first round pick is steep, and it's something they've only really done once, Minka, in recent memory or decades. So I don't think that's the style, especially when you add the contract involved with it. But he is awesome. BetOnline is your number one source for all your summer sports this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NBA, and NHL playoffs. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now let's continue this Aiyuk conversation, because again, I'm going off rumors, but hey, I'll bite. He's gonna put that out there. I'll bite. We'll talk about it. I know it's what everyone wants to hear. Now, do I think he's gonna end up in Pittsburgh? I don't, but I don't think it's the most insane thing I've ever heard either. Now, the speculation is with Aiyuk reaching out to his buddy Daniels that the Commanders are interested. Okay. That's what I wanted to hear, to be honest with you, because if by chance he ends up in Washington with his buddy, which I would make all the sense in the world to pair those two together, make Daniels' life as he comes to the NFL as easy as possible, as comfortable as possible, I would be on the phone immediately for Terry McLaurin. I would also consider Jahan Dotson from Penn State, who's younger. Now, Washington also, they have those two as their starter, and then they use a third-round pick on McCaffrey. So if they were to add a receiver, especially someone of Aiyuk's quality, I think they would be very open to trading Dotson or more likely McLaurin. McLaurin's 29 years old, and by the time Washington and Jaden Daniels are in their prime, McLaurin might not be anymore. So why not get something for him? He's right a little over $15 million cap hit this year as well as next year. That's nothing to me if I'm the Steelers for this guy. I mean, nothing. Not a problem at all for me. Now, if I'm McLaurin and I was going to get traded, I would at least tell my agent, hey, look at these wide receiver contracts. Let's see if we could at least put another year on here or capitalize on the movement and get some more money out of it. Okay, I'm still open to that if I'm the Steelers. And I would open that negotiation, and maybe you could even get him cheaper, but McLaurin straight up for your second-round pick next year. I'm not giving up a first. I don't think he would demand a first at his age, but he's really good. And I think he's probably the most underrated receiver of the last 5 to 10 years. I mean, he's played with obscenely bad quarterbacks in bad systems, bad O-line last year. I mean, he's open all the time and they can't even get the ball out because of sacks and lack of protection. He is tough. I mean, he has a big special teams background going back to Ohio State. Of course, he doesn't do that anymore because he's too good and too valuable. But man, he's better than George Pickens right now. I know everyone hates when I say anything bad about Pickens for whatever reason, but like he's a perfect player. But boy, he'd be a great compliment. Go over the middle after the catch at all levels. And again, if we're in the neighborhood of a second straight up for McLaurin, oh baby. I mean, that is exactly what I like. And over the last couple months, we've addressed many wide receiver options, rumors. This is my favorite one. I mean, at $15 million in a second for McLaurin for the next 2 years and then go from there, even if it's a little more, boom, that makes you a contender in a big way to me and fills your biggest need. Now, how about Dotson? Dotson was a mid-first round pick 2 years ago. He's the same draft class as Pickens. Smaller, explosive. You probably watched a fair amount of him at Penn State or his NFL career. I thought he was super impressive as a rookie. His stat line is noticeably worse in year 2. But if you watch the tape, he really did not take a step backwards. His stats suffered from being in a terrible situation. Again, really terrible situation. He is open a lot. I think his ceiling is a high quality number 2 receiver. Explosive, good catching radius, even though he's small, can attack all levels of the field, not going to give you much as a blocker. And people will be like, ceiling's a number 2 receiver. No, I mean that as a compliment. I mean, a quality number 2 NFL receiver is very valuable and frankly is worth the mid-first round pick that Washington used on him. If that's what he, stays as, develops into, et cetera, et cetera. You'd have him for next year, and then you could decide on the 5th year option, but then you have him the year after that. So very cost controlled. His stock is certainly down at this moment. I don't think he would cost you a pick in round 1 or 2, maybe a 3rd, maybe a 4th, maybe something conditional. I don't know what the compensation would be, but he wouldn't hurt your cap much at all. A lot different than Pickens. I mean, a deep threat and explosive, and would he also complete the offense? Of course, you'd rather have Aiyuk. You'd rather have McLaurin. But Dotson at a minimal cost, I think, would be really attractive. So, again, I mean, this is a lot would have to happen. Aiyuk has to get traded either to the Steelers, which we addressed. I don't think that happens. Or he signs a deal and Debo gets traded. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the Niners are super interested in getting worse this year, but this is getting to the point with Aiyuk that he might start demanding trades, and he's seeing these contracts out there, and maybe the Niners misread the wide receiver market and don't think he is a $30 million a year player. I think he is. I bet plenty of teams in the league think he is. If I'm Washington, who has tons of cap space, I would be very interested in that, which then would open the hole for Dotson or more likely McLaurin because of his age to be available. So I adore that situation. Of all these things I just talked about for the last 10, 15 minutes or whatever, if you could get McLaurin, play him every snap opposite Pickens and rotate those other dudes in, I think that is exactly what you need. And giddy up, let's get ready for the regular season, All right, everyone, that's going to do it for me for a while. Thank you for wishing me happy vacation. I hope all you guys are having a great summer. And we'll be back full swing when I return. It'll be a couple weeks remaining before training camp. So I'm going to come up with some topics, while I'm gone, floating around, cold drink. And that is a wrap. Over and out.